Alto sweated. It wasn't from the sun beating down on the bard, but the hard manual work he was undertaking for the old woman. She stood in the door and watched as he gripped a plant and pulled. Leaves ripped, but the roots remained deep in the earth. He was forced to dig with his fingers, ones that used to pick at the strings of his lute, but that was lost, broken in the house. In the bard's lamentations, he didn't notice the plant was starting to sink. It was a faint noise, which rose from the earth and grew louder with each handful of dirt. Welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today, we hear the cries of the Mandrake root. Let's see how a plant does it and why it is so valuable. The Mandrake root is a real herb, but there is a strain with magical origins. It has purple leaves, a short stem, and yellowish roots which can grow to be up to 2 feet long. The real Mandrake root is related to poison nightshade plants. It is a herbaceous perennial plant that contain alkaloids in the roots and leaves. These make them hallucinogens and narcotics. Use of it can cause blurry vision, dilated pupils, rapid heartbeat, dry mouth, headaches, vomiting, delirium, unconsciousness, and in some cases, death. Dang, it sounds like I'm reading the side effects of a medicine. Well, maybe because the normal mandrake root has been used in medicine. It has been used as an antiseptic in surgeries since ancient Greece by mixing it with wine. Topical usage helps with joint pain. It has been used to treat melancholy, convulsions, anxiety, and mania. But we aren't here for the mundane mandrake roots. We are here for the magical vision. It is said that they grow from or in the droppings of those who are hung on the gallows, or the brains of dead thieves. There are 2 versions of its roots, one that looks like a man, and the other a woman. These ones also let out a cry when pulled out. It is well known that these cries are fatal to all that hear them. It isn't said how long before it is fatal though. It might take a few seconds or be instant. Normally, roots serve to anchor the plant into the soil, allows for water absorption, and storage of nutrients. So I grow into a human-like form. A human form, which means 4 limbs to grip the soil. That will make it more difficult to dislodge it from the ground. Usually, the growth of roots is random, based on the soil, but plants still have a few predetermined sections. Roots, stems, and leaf locations are set. They use a variation of segmentation genes to determine which cells become which part. These are genes that are run off protein concentrations and overlapping genes. Simply put, protein A is found in the roots, protein B is in the leaves, and where they are both found becomes the stem. So we need to add another protein to the group, below the overlapping section to form the main body, while those parts with only gene A form the arms and legs. We will need a third protein C that will determine the leg section where it is found, and then so on and so forth for the arm roots. To get 2 sides will copy what animals do. Cilia within the early seed cells will cause another protein, E, to accumulate on one side, and that side will become the right. That without becomes the left. Simple enough, yes? I'm sorry, but embryology is actually a very confusing topic. After that, we move on to what makes the plant dangerous. When you dig it up, it screams. How? Plants don't need lungs or respiratory systems like humans. Plants do their respiration in their leaves. There's no need for lungs, and you need air pockets of sorts to expel the air out of it to make a scream. So, why does a plant have an air pocket inside it? Well, you find air pockets in squashes, like pumpkins. These usually hold room for seeds to develop. Could this be the same for the mandrake? Normal mandrake seeds come from their flowers, so assuming the same concept for the magical mandrake, this seems like a dead end. Unless we look at seed dispersion. Most flowering plants release their seeds using wind, gravity, or animal dispersion. But there is another method. Ballistic dispersion. Usually pressure builds in the plant, and then it is released along a designed area called the dehiscence. If the mandrake creates pressure within the root system, which is released through the flower to disperse the seeds, it could give us a clue, or mean that the scream you hear when you pull out the mandrake root is the release of this pressure, damage to the system, or removal of the added pressure from the dirt, either being what causes it. This could also explain the effects of its cry. When I did the particularities on the bard, I found that 240 decibels will kill instantly. This would match what the mandrake root does, except at 240 decibels, there are going to be other issues. Destruction of the environment, probably knocking things away, and a whole mess of other problems. That doesn't match what we hear with the mandrake. No, only those near the scream will die, and you can block it by filling your ears with wax. Since we know the non-magical mandrakes can be poisonous, what if the ballistic dispersion method also expels fragments of the mandrake itself? But I'm sure you are thinking, if it is poisonous spores, wouldn't you inhale it and then still die regardless of having your ears plugged? And you are correct. This is a fatal flaw in this idea. So what if it is a sound-based issue? Infrasonic sounds, ones below what a human can hear, can make you feel nauseous and cause heart palpitations. Could the mandrake be making such a sound and causing heart problems to rise, and an audible one that people recognize as well? Maybe, and probably the most likely. It would come from the same dispersion system though. This could also explain why it is only dangerous when pulled out, not when it is dispersing its seeds. The infrasonic sound only exists if bothered before it releases its seeds, when it isn't ready yet. So, why are there male and female versions of a mandrake root? Could there be two different species? With most plants, there is a male and female section on the same plant. So another option is the mandrake actually do have separate genders. I think the first is more likely, and what most literature seems to support. Now, can the mandrake move? Nothing I found says it can. They grow and remain underground, so they do not move, but as the air pocket inside it deflates, it will appear to move about. The mandrake root can be dangerous. If you mess with it, then it is dangerous. But if you don't bother with it, it is harmless. That is why I'm giving the mandrake root a 1 of 10 for difficulty. But how do you pull out the mandrake root safely? Well, a well-documented method was to tie a rope to the mandrake root and to a hungry dog. Toss a treat and let the dog chase after it. It will pull the mandrake out and then be killed by the mandrake. You protect yourself by putting wax in your ears. Go and harvest the mandrake then. Now, do you have any issues with killing a dog every time you want to harvest a mandrake? So let's figure out a different method. So, we can't be close as we do this. What about tying a rope to a pulley system? Having a timer of sorts. Maybe a bucket of water slowly dripping into a second, with the second triggering the pulley when it gets heavy enough? That is an option. Or you could set up a catapult system of sorts. One that yanks it hard and fast and flings it into a pile a distance away, keeping you free from the sound. Additionally, you can create a weight system based on burning rope to release it. Both options may play out. What about with magic? Could you do it with telekinesis? If you can do it at range, yes. What about preventing the sound? Let's start with a bardic option. Could they play a tune which would disrupt the effects of the Mandrake's cry? In theory, yes, assuming that you can predict the musical pitch and tune. But there are other skills, such as a druid. Magic to control plants could cause it to release the seeds before you pick it. Or you can use magic to dig them up gently without damaging the Mandrake. What about cold magic to freeze them in place? That would probably only increase the risk of releasing the sound by making it more prone to cracking. But there might be a simpler way overall. Trigger the sound intentionally. Set up a large spike and drop it into the Mandrake while you have range. Use the pulley in fire systems. You can also destroy it by cutting up instantly or burning it before pulling it out. This might damage the Mandrake and reduce its effectiveness in potions. And trust me, that is something you won't want to miss out on. Oh, there are dozens of potions which the Mandrake is documented in being used in. Let's look at what you get before chopping it up though. First up, if a woman places an immature one under her pillow at night, it will help her conceive a child. Also, if a man carries a female Mandrake, it will help him find a wife. Many families will keep one for generations. They will store it in a box lined with silk. 4 times a year, they will take it out, wash it in wine and brandy. Afterwards, you will sprinkle the mixture around your house as a protective ward against evil. Now we get to the fun ones, the potions. First up, the drug of Circe, a witch found in the Odyssey. Her and Aphrodite use it as an aphrodisiac drug to control men. This is well documented in other sources, including found in the Bible. This is a key ingredient in making a love potion, they say. Witches will use it to make a flying potion, though it is said that this comes from becoming high on the narcotics in the Mandrake root. It is even possible to take the Mandrake as your familiar, one that boosts magic, vitality, and fertility. Even if not a familiar, it can bring luck and holds the cures for many curses and diseases. And on top of this, Mandrake is used in medicinal potions, those to promote vigor and stamina, reduce fatigue and stress. Yeah, the Mandrake root has many uses. Generally, they are all positive, but be careful. It can be very dangerous to take anything using the Mandrake. It won't take long before it becomes addictive. You'll want it again and again, more and more. Just be careful in your uses. The last value is if you sell the root. The Mandrake root fetches a high price. Even a few of them will net you a high profit. So long as you can harvest them safely, it is worth it. Alto continued to dig, slowly uncovering the root. It wasn't until it let out a scream that he recognized it. He clapped his hands over his ears as pain filled him. He stared at the tiny face as his vision blurred. He did the only thing he could think of. Leaning forward, he bit into the Mandrake root. The instant his teeth touched the root, his head spun. It was as if he was leaving his body. A warmth washed over him. Standing by her house, the old woman laughed at Alto's distress. She did nothing to aid the debilitated bard. No, she knew this would help him, if not right now. The Mandrake root is valuable to any potion maker. Even without a potion, you can still use it. They are only dangerous if you're attempting to pull it out. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week for the brownie. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.